As a concert violinist, my music career suffered greatly. All my performances and recordings had to be canceled. I'm very concerned that the pandemic will have a long-lasting negative impact on all artists. Since I was unable to perform, I focused my energy on photography. I captured landscapes, documented events, and explored numerous remote areas. California's Victorville Airport turned into a large parking area for hundreds of retired and furloughed planes due to COVID-19 and the decline of air travel. I took this aerial image while flying my own personal plane. It's a Piper Warrior. It's a four-seater, and it's as a small plane that's ideal platform for aerial images that I've been using now for about 10 years. My name is Jassen Todorov, and I live in San Francisco. I'm 47 years old, and I'm a professor of music at San Francisco State University, where I've been teaching for the past 20 years. I've been teaching music. I mean, about this photograph, it was sad, since I'm a pilot also, it was sad for me to see all of these furloughed planes in the desert. They were stranded in the desert, parked in the desert for about 2 years. On the other hand, it was good for nature. Nature was able to breathe a little bit without us polluting so much. The problem with all the air travel, that all of us are now used to flying, and it's easy to access the most remote parts of the globe. The problem with that is that it's not very good for our Earth, and we continue to pollute. And so on one hand, I'm sad to see those planes that are able to take us from point A to point B sitting in the desert. It was also sad to see all the pilots sitting at home. Many of them had to change professions altogether. On the other hand, as I said, it's a tricky situation, because I wish we could care about our own planet a little bit more. It's a beautiful planet, and looking from above, it makes me very sad to see polluted cities, to see dry riverbeds, to see devastated forests. So it's a real problem, which I don't know how the future generations will tackle. It's a big problem that will have an impact on every single person on this planet. It's already having. You can see my interview with Nat Geo. I had a massive, I mean, this was all over the world. You can see it. They featured a lot of my photos. I was on TV, I was on the radio, every major newspaper, magazine, BBC, CNN, all of them featured my picture. There was $7,500 award, which is helpful as well. And
do you remember what you did with the money?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of expenses because I fly airplanes, and I have to maintain my plane, and I pay for the gas, and I have to pay for the gas and for the insurance and for everything else. But there's a lot of expenses that go into taking aerials. The idea is that you get massive visibility all over the world, and you get featured, just about anywhere.
So what advice do you have for the younger artists, up and comers in the book?
Well, number one, you must never stop pursuing your dreams and your passions, right? That's this constant work that goes into furthering and perfecting your art. I think that's of crucial importance, right? Discipline, I'm a violinist, right? And I started playing the violin when I was 5. And I've been practicing, well, just about every single day since then. I'm 47 now. So
Wow.
that's 42 years of practicing. I'm still getting better. I hope I will get better one day too. I look up to the great musicians of the 20th and 21st century. And that constant, just wish to further, to get better, to perfect your art is, to me, very inspiring. To some, it's a turn off. It's make it or break it in a way, right? And consistency is important. Perseverance is important. So I use those words to teach my students at the university who are pursuing music. And that same language I use when I'm teaching people how to fly airplanes. I'm a flight instructor. You must always get better. You're always learning, constantly growing. So you need to be disciplined. You need to have that perseverance. Most importantly, you have to have the passion for it. If you don't have the passion for it, none of the others will work, right? It has to be burning passion to the point where you can't sleep from excitement. And so now that you can translate that to photography, right? You're telling stories, but I've seen many efforts of telling stories, and some of them have been sloppy when you look at the picture, the final result. In fact, taking pictures carries a great responsibility in a way, because you're telling stories that may reach thousands and potentially millions of people, thanks to social media nowadays. So if you have a powerful image, and if it's presented well, it's that can be a wonderful way to get publicity, to get recognition that's needed, which in turn will stimulate you to take more pictures. So the more recognition you get, for some people that's how it works, of course, you're stimulated to take more pictures and to pursue this as a part-time job or a full-time job for some people.
So you have the opportunity to take many different types of images. You focus some on really important issues happening around the world. How do you pick those stories, and how do you decide to build a story around that?
Right.
Walk me through your process. Like, where does it start in your head, and how do you go through that? Right.
So I stay current with the world events. I read a lot of the news. I try to keep up with all the events in my local, certainly, area, right? Local meaning Western US, California and the neighboring states, certainly, because it's within easy reach. One of the big things is climate change. We're all affected by it. And in this part of the world, here in California, we're suffering through terrible, massive drought, which of course leads to all of these wildfires that can spark in a second or a minute, and can grow in absolute awful immensity within just a number of hours. So I always follow, what's happening with the drought, the lakes. I can tell you that I regularly go to the Sierra Nevada mountain range, and I document the disappearance of all glaciers. I've been doing this for the past 15 years already, and wow, the difference is striking of the mountains today than 15 years ago. The first time I went to Yosemite was 30 years ago, And I remember so much snow, plenty of snow. Nowadays, you can't even see snow unless you go above 10,000, 12,000 feet. And even at that altitude, between 12 and 14,000 feet, you can barely see any snow. In fact, I'm sad to inform you and anyone else that all glaciers have already disappeared in the Sierra Nevada range. And remember, that's the highest mountain range in the lower 48 states. So Mount Whitney goes up to 14,505 feet. That's the highest peak in the lower 48. And we have no more glaciers up there.
So how do you get,
and that has happened in the last 20 years.
So how do you get people to care about that with your pictures?
Well, I try to present my pictures through various channels. Now I work with various media organizations, and I try to pitch those stories, be it wildfires, be it the disappearance of glaciers or drought, and I'm happy when some of them feature some of my pictures, because we need to educate, obviously, not just our own followers on our own social media channels, but the wider audience. The problem is that most people are not really interested in climate change. Many of them don't even believe in it. And I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it happening in front of my eyes, and I'm trying to document it. And I'll continue to do that, of course, because I'm very passionate, and I'm concerned, frankly, about the wildlife. I mean, we're losing thousands upon thousands, maybe millions of animals every year because of the wildfires, because of the drought, and it will start impacting all of us. In fact, many of us are already being impacted by that. So that's part of it, right? And on the other hand, I try to balance my life as a musician and a photographer. So in the past, I'd go to give a concert, say in Brazil, and while I'm there for a few days, I would charter a plane. I would rent a plane.
Wow.
And I would take some pictures. So, for example, I took some pictures over Brazil, over Rio, over some sensitive areas there that I think could tell great stories. So in that way, I can combine some of my trips and take photos. The same thing happened with the Philippines. I went to the Philippines a few years ago to give a concert. While I was there, I rented a plane. And another thing I was able to do also, and what I'm trying to do these days, is right after my performances, I present my pictures to the audience that's already in the concert hall. That's a different audience.
That's a good idea.
So these people have come to hear violin, classical music concert, Bach, Brahms, Beethoven, Chopin, Fauré, whoever, right? And suddenly at the end of the concert, they're presented with an encore, a presentation of some of my photos. I can tell you, many of them are probably enjoying that part even more than the music part, but
because they can take it home.
It's so different. It's so different. And many of the younger kids feel very inspired because now they can realize, wow, I can do more than just one thing in life. Right.
And you're the winner of the Nat Geo Grand Prize photo from 2018 that photographed the VW cars in the desert. I feel like there might be a connection between the machinery here that you captured and the machinery that you had captured back then. Do you think there is a connection, and what makes that such an interesting image besides the fact that it's a difficult one to get? Right. Well, I mean, I'm naturally attracted to patterns. Just like in music, we look at a lot of patterns. Anytime I see patterns from above, in a way, I see notes. I see the musical stuff, and I see music, I see notes. So I'm naturally attracted to patterns. And I grew up in Bulgaria where you can't see any deserts. So for me, exploring deserts is ultra exciting.
especially remote areas. And I have the opportunity to do so here, being in California and not too far from the Mojave Desert and from Death Valley. And certainly the deserts in Arizona and Utah are spectacular and very attractive to me. So I like to document and explore those areas a lot.
Wow, that's very thoughtful. I have a random question. Have you ever been able to fly a drone from an airplane?
From an airplane? No.
Would it be able to connect at all?
Yeah, but I don't like drones. You can connect it, but I don't like drones. I don't like drones for many reasons. First of all, the quality of the picture is not that high.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, drone users, drone pilots are oftentimes breaking the laws, and they fly where they're not supposed to fly. And I work with the FAA on safety, and I'd like to make sure that we have safe skies, because it's very easy to get into a potentially very dangerous situation and ultimately a deadly one if a drone hits a helicopter, which has happened in the past, or a plane. That can be very fatal for the passenger or passengers in that plane or a helicopter. So I'd like to see less drones in the skies. And I'd like to see more drone users that are thoughtful and conscious of their choices. This is my, in 2019, I'm sending you a picture here, a link. In 2019, I was the second place winner of Nat Geo travel photo contest with this picture. And it features exactly what I was just talking about, some of my passions: flying and aerial photography. And you know, I like to photograph also airplanes, airplanes in motion. And I think it's important to tell stories, obviously, through my photographs. And in 2020, so last year, I was the photographer of the year for Nat Geo Your Shot with 7 photos. This is one of them. This is the Golden Gate Bridge in fog, as you can see here. This photo, this was spectacular.
Wow.
That's
gorgeous.
Yeah, that was one of the 7 photos that they featured.
Mm-hmm.
This is on Nat Geo Travel. I had the pleasure to serve as an editor, guest editor for Nat Geo, as the photographer of the year. And so about 10,000 people, or there were about 10,000 submissions for that contest that I was adjudicating. But this is one of them, this photo. I remember that year and that particular day because I was practicing my violin and I was preparing for concerts and for the recordings. It was in February, mm-hmm. And suddenly as I was practicing, I looked out of the window and I saw this fog moving in, but it was very low, very unusual. In February, you don't get much fog in San Francisco. And so I thought, wow, this fog is very artistic. It's very poetic. I hope it will stick around there for a little bit longer. And if it's still there during the golden hour, I'll jump in the plane. I'll take some photos of that. And so there are 7 pictures that they feature. This is another one. Later that year, the fog was just so poetic. So I spent a lot of time, since all of my concerts got canceled. All my concerts got canceled for the last 2 years. I haven't been able to play many concerts. it's been very sad year, in fact, because a musician wants to play and share his or her own music. So
Have you
instead of,
have you thought of doing something like a master class or playing online or?
yeah, I don't like doing that too much. I like to connect with people in person. With music is a little bit different. It's not quite like us here on Zoom talking about photos and looking at photos.
Yeah,
Uh, it's you're adjusting to the sensitivity of the sound, and the sound through the little speakers will never be close to the sound you experience in the room. So it's not really, doesn't really work. But during
there's
that
no
time,
gravity.
yeah, during the pandemic, I really focused all of my energy on taking photos.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that last episode and learned something new. Don't forget to tune in to the next episode to see what other crazy, incredible, creative, and empowering lessons you can learn from the photos in this book.